In the 21st century, I found myself with few options, none without emotional and financial pain. The children would suffer. Even our dog would be affected. Growing up middle class in Boston, my problems had always been simple: school, sports, and girls. I liked girls, then loved them, perhaps too much. But without that love, I wouldn't have had two beautiful children. My problem was straightforward. I no longer satisfied my wife Emma's requirements as a man she wanted intimacy with. To solve her problem, she found other men. Apparently, I was still eligible to work and support everyone, but intimacy with Emma was essentially off the table. She occasionally suggested a quickie for my birthday, but her heart wasn't in it. Noticeably so. I started refusing her token offers. She just shrugged and said, "Your problem," before falling asleep. For a while, we still shared a bed, mostly for appearances in front of the children. I kept to my side. She kept to hers. The middle was no man's land where neither dared venture. I gradually noticed Emma spending more time with her boyfriend. She came home late several nights a week. Then one Friday morning, she announced she was going away for the weekend. When I asked where and with whom, she replied that I didn't need to know, and honestly, I didn't want to know. Single weekends turned into 2 weekends monthly. When the children asked where she was going, her answer never varied: helping a friend. This continued for about a year. I realized if I wanted any semblance of a life, I needed to get my act together and do something for myself. The kids and I filled our weekends with activities. They had school sporting events and clubs that occupied most of their free time. I filled my hours by being there for them however I could, attending games and practices, driving them and their friends wherever needed. I decided that spending more time with the children meant less time dwelling on Emma. She still worked with the children and occasionally cooked family dinners. She planned our family events, though I noticed her interest waning. She constantly texted on her phone. When I looked at her, she'd quickly hide it in her purse and pretend interest in what we were doing. The children asked why their mother was away so often. I had no appropriate answer for them. I remember saying, "You should ask your mom about this. I'm sure she can give you plenty of details." After about a year, I realized I'd long since been replaced as the man Emma wanted as her husband. From discovering her text messages, I learned she was involved with 2 different men. One was about 10 years younger, working as a paralegal at her firm, completely engrossed in the brutal beatings she enjoyed so much. The other, her main lover, was another lawyer from her firm, several years older, married with a wife and 2 children. He was a senior partner. Emma seemed to love shopping where she worked. A person can only take so much. I talked with the children. They felt that not everything was perfect in our world. They'd almost lost track of when their mother was or wasn't around. They simply stopped counting and caring. The time the 3 of us spent together was remarkable. They often told classic daddy stories about our hikes and travels when Emma wasn't involved. I think she noticed occasionally. I volunteered at school events, and some observant parents noticed Emma was never there. When one mother casually asked where she was, my standard answer became, "She's busy." I pulled my old bike from the garage, took it for maintenance and overhaul, and started riding again. The first few times were educational. Muscles I hadn't used in years reminded me I'd been a slug too long. My use of pain relievers increased after those initial workouts. There was a mountain bike meetup group in town, so I joined. It was fun, though it hurt like hell. Afterward, over pints of beer, the group usually went to the Fox and Hound pub. I needed this social outlet. I liked it. I lost weight, from 185 to 160 pounds. My pants size decreased to 31 inches at the waist, and my shirt size dropped to medium slim fit. I looked much better, especially considering I'm only 5 feet 11 inches. I started going to the gym during lunch breaks. The flexible schedule at my office as a CPA and management consultant made this possible. I got clear plastic braces for my teeth, which had started shifting. When I was a child, my parents spent money equivalent to a small used car on braces, and I didn't want to waste their investment. My kids would need braces soon, and what better way to show them it wasn't the horror story their friends described than to lead by example. I usually only wore them while sleeping. Emma never noticed, or if she did, never mentioned it. The kids convinced me to go clothes shopping for better-fitting attire. We visited the Tommy Hilfiger outlet where my cousin worked as a manager, giving me a family discount of 40%. I couldn't refuse. I got contact lenses too. The kids laughed watching me try to insert them the first few times, like being poked in the eye with a thumb. Eventually, I mastered the technique. I still wore glasses for work, but bought new ones. The kids helped me choose black horn-rimmed frames, now fashionable. In my teenage years, we called such glasses birth control glasses. Times change. One of the mothers from school made a point of inviting me to a barbecue at her house. Recently divorced with 2 children, she worked as a nurse at the local hospital. With divorce rates hovering around 50%, several single parents had children at the same school as mine. The invitation specified no children, suggesting alcohol would be served. I found a babysitter, made the kids promise good behavior, and went. It was enlightening. Apparently, Emma's extramarital activities weren't as secret as she thought. She'd been seen with her boyfriend at several restaurants and clubs. Nurse Marilyn diplomatically asked if the tall, fit man Emma was dancing with was somehow related to her. I took a sip of beer, trying to formulate an answer that would preserve some dignity for both Emma and me, but we were past that stage. With the cat out of the bag, there was no point sugarcoating the truth. I suggested Emma had a social life completely separate from her family life. When asked if I enjoyed the same advantage, I replied that I was in the process of creating a similar advantage for myself. You should have seen the raised eyebrows. Slowly, our family life began to change. The children grew and became busier. Sports and other interests increased, meaning less time available for other activities. My free time became more precious. To mitigate this, I gradually transferred some childcare responsibilities back to Emma. I learned from a wise person that eating an elephant can be done easily, one small piece at a time, but it takes patience. I started delegating household chores and children's activities to Emma while scheduling time for myself. I bought a new TRK mountain bike and a Subaru Outback with features suitable for off-roading and adventures. I participated in several regional events and thoroughly enjoyed getting muddy. By the end of each event, I wore dirt like a shell and loved it. Emma's life changed too. I decided she should contribute more to family responsibilities. She complained about her stressful job and how lawyers work crazy hours to succeed. Some of this might be true if she weren't sleeping with 2 men and compensating by being constantly absent. I reached the point where I simply didn't care. I emailed her my schedule and told her I was busy too. She would have to postpone time with her lovers occasionally. This worked somewhat, limiting her freedom while giving me more. Another development, I made new friends, including female friends. Initially casual, I discovered as I got to know some women in the mountain biking community that they liked me too. Imagine that. This realization restored the self-confidence Emma's cheating had stolen. After all, why would your wife sleep with other men if you were fulfilling her needs? When I first discovered her infidelity, I believed I wasn't enough for her. Now I wondered if Emma was really the one I wanted. My children are smart, like their father. They realized their mother was increasingly absent from their lives until they stopped asking where she was. As I started going out more, the children reported that their mother was sending them to friends' houses. I often came home to find notes saying the kids were at another house and Emma would return the next day. I knew things had to change. Emma was approaching her expiration date in my life. I consulted a family lawyer. New York state law primarily concerns itself with children's welfare in any marriage. Mothers usually get custody unless deemed unfit, but this argument wouldn't make a difference, especially after I mentioned my wife was also a lawyer. The attorney suggested I had little chance of getting full custody. At the end of our discussion, I asked her to prepare divorce papers, saying I'd tell her when and where to file. Going home, I kept wondering how long this situation would continue. My lawyer suggested that if I waited longer and Emma became more distant from the family, she might agree to better terms. She might become so tired of marriage and children that she'd welcome leaving us for her freedom. There was truth in this. I decided to talk with Emma about her intentions. I chose a Thursday evening when I knew she'd be home. The children were in their rooms reading and preparing for bed. I grabbed an IPA from the refrigerator and found Emma in the living room with the TV on, her laptop open, phone in hand, and work papers spread across the couch and coffee table. I cleared my throat to get her attention. She glanced up briefly, then returned to her phone. "Emma, we need to talk," I said. She continued concentrating on her text. "Look at me. We need to talk." She didn't look up again. "What do you want to talk about?" "I want to talk about us. I want to discuss how long you plan to stay married. I want to know how long you plan to live here." That finally caught her attention. Her head shot up, and she dropped her phone. "What? What do you mean?" "I mean we're not a couple anymore. You haven't been part of this family for over a year and a half. You've been busy having fun with your two lovers. You were my wife and mother to the two children you gave birth to. That's what I mean." Her face flushed. "I told you long ago that you don't own me. I decide who I sleep with. You don't want to sleep with me, so I have the right to sleep with whoever I want." She paused, then added angrily, "And you know it. When was the last time we had sex?" "I don't know and don't care," I replied. "Every time I tried, you refused." I nodded. "You're right. I seem to have an aversion to dirty leftovers, but that's just me." I took a long sip of beer, realizing little would be achieved tonight. "So what do you want from me?" she snapped. "I do my part in childcare and pay my share of household expenses. What do you want?" Her lawyer's instincts emerged. Attack was her defense. "I want to know how long you plan to stay married," I replied. "It's obvious you don't want me as your husband, and I really don't want you as my wife. You know, you really are a terrible husband." She shot back before getting up and leaving the room. She went to the kitchen and poured herself wine. I thought she wouldn't return, but she did, seemingly eager to finish texting her lovers. In this brief exchange, I reached my breaking point. The next day, Friday, I moved all my belongings from our bedroom to the guest room. It took several trips, but only about an hour. Emma continued her business in the living room. I actually slept well that night. The following morning, I spoke with the kids at breakfast. Emma had already left before they were ready to eat, so I explained there would be changes in the house, that their mother and I needed to sort out some issues, but my primary concern was minimizing impact on them. They looked at me while eating cereal and toast, nodding as if they'd expected this. I called my lawyer as soon as I reached my office, instructing her to proceed with the divorce filing. I wanted Emma served at her workplace. This was necessary, I believed, so she and perhaps her lovers would understand there were consequences for their decisions and actions. The process server appeared at my office and handed me an envelope, saying, "You have been served." I paid little attention, handing it to my secretary to log and determine which business matter it concerned. I grabbed coffee and began working. Minutes later, she reappeared with the envelope. "What is this?" My secretary's carefully plucked eyebrows rose. "This is for you personally. You should really look at it." She placed the opened envelope on my desk. I pulled out the file and examined the title page. At that moment, the phone rang. It was Robert, Emma's boss. "Can you come to my office immediately, please?" Though he said please, it was clearly in order that I straightened my skirt and walked toward his office. "What the hell, Emma?" He handed me a file when I entered, a lawsuit for destroying someone else's family happiness. Such lawsuits rarely succeed in New York. I placed it back on the table and sat on the leather couch in his large office. I just got served divorce papers. Jack wants me out. What are his terms?" "I don't know. I haven't looked yet. I'm not using anyone from the firm as my representative. I'll probably represent myself. I don't want rumors spreading." "You're right," Robert replied. "Because if Judy finds out about us, she'll make a fuss, and it'll cost me more than I want to pay." Robert has teenage children, a large house with a substantial mortgage, and a lifestyle to match. He and his wife Judy are wealthy, but divorce would hurt him financially and, more importantly, damage his reputation at the firm and in the wider community. What was I even thinking about Robert for? My own hurricane was gathering strength, and I needed to get ahead of it quickly. My stomach churned. I rushed to the bathroom in the corner of his office, barely making it before emptying my stomach. I grabbed water, closed my office door, and reviewed the documents. My legal training kicked in as I jotted notes on a yellow pad. Jack had gone all in, citing adultery, and providing names and addresses of both Robert and James, claiming I'd maintained intimate relationships with them for approximately 2 years. He demanded full custody, citing my frequent absences from home and family, asserting he was the better parent. My fitness as a guardian was contested with an attached list documenting times spent with Robert and James over the past year. Damn, I muttered. Jack wanted half our house, half our savings, and child support until they completed university, potentially years. Most alarmingly, it would all be aired in family court. Jack demanded a complete medical examination for sexually transmitted diseases and sought names of all my partners since our marriage. Damn, I repeated, rubbing my temples. The judge might sympathize medically, making this difficult to overcome. Jack wanted me out of the house, claiming I was no longer a suitable example for the children. He was essentially branding me as frivolous. Neither Robert nor James had ever visited my house. I'd been careful about that. I tried calling Jack, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I left an angry message, which in retrospect wasn't wise. I left several more messages asking him to reconsider, suggesting we could work things out. I considered going to his office, but decided I probably wouldn't get past reception. Nevertheless, I needed to act swiftly. I drove there, bypassing the receptionist by walking in as if I belonged. She didn't even look up. Jack wasn't in his office. I waited about an hour, but he never appeared. I left him a note stating I had matters to address back at my office. The hurricane had gathered momentum. Another process server with an envelope awaited me. A temporary restraining order prohibiting me from living in my home for 30 days or until a formal hearing. I could retrieve necessary personal items, clothing, and work-related equipment. I had to call the court clerk to arrange a time, but not until tomorrow. Jack's lawyer had beaten me to it, and I was already struggling against the current. I texted Jack saying I would pack her bag and bring it to his office, asking for a list of what he wanted. Alternatively, he could come home with my lawyer present. I had been home all day but received a call from my boss saying Emma had been sitting in my office for over an hour. He had kept everyone away from her. I thanked him. Emma arrived home late in the afternoon when she knew the children would be returning from school. I looked at her. You know the restraining order means you shouldn't be here. Why are you doing this? It's unnecessary and frankly absurd. Are you trying to stop me from seeing my kids? Why are you doing this? Oh, now you're a worried parent yearning to be with your kids? What about all the weekends with your lovers? All the weekday evenings you missed? All the children's activities you couldn't find time for? You took every opportunity to spend time with your lovers instead of your kids or me. Now you come home telling me I'm being ridiculous? If you wanted a divorce to have affairs, why didn't you just say so? Why all this nonsense? What I do is none of your business. Who I sleep with is none of your business. You could have slept with me every week, but you missed your chance. My chance? That's rich. You offer me leftovers after others. Then I refuse the possibility of contracting an STD from you and your lovers. Everything you do involves turning away and ignoring me. Well, now it's my turn to ignore you. Take what you came for and get out. Emma stepped back, face reddening. I took my phone and called my lawyer. When she answered, I said, "It seems my wife doesn't understand court orders and came here without legal representation to collect her things." She advised taking a picture if possible and said she would call police to the house. Emma slowly gathered her belongings, and indeed, 2 policewomen arrived. I explained the situation and showed them the court order. After some discussion, I directed them upstairs. Following loud conversation, they escorted Emma to the kitchen. To say she was furious would be an understatement. She exploded at the officers. The senior officer warned her to calm down or face handcuffing and arrest. One asked if I wanted to file charges. I inhaled deeply, then declined, deciding the point had been made clearly enough. The senior officer escorted her back upstairs. Emma packed a suitcase, grabbed work items from the office, and headed to her car. I went inside, closed the door, and called my lawyer to report what happened. I had several photos of Emma with the police. A few days later, my lawyer called to say Emma's attorney had requested a meeting. The 4 of us would sit down to calmly discuss everything. I agreed to meet at my lawyer's office in 2 days. At home, the children were curious about their mother's whereabouts. Being away so long was new to them. Previously, she had always given them some fiction about her activities. When I heard her explanations, I would sometimes fake a cough or laugh. She'd glare at me contemptuously. I arrived at the meeting early to speak with my lawyer about my goals and how to convince Emma that agreement was in her best interest. What Emma's lawyer didn't say up front was that they planned to argue things had gotten out of control, that Emma deeply regretted any pain she had unknowingly caused, and that our marriage remained invaluable to her. They proposed resolving issues through counseling and her immediate return home. As they discussed the importance of marriage for family unity and how children fare better with two parents, I gave an incredulous look. My lawyer countered, "Have you received your STD test results yet, Emma?" She and her lawyer exchanged glances before asking, "Why do you need medical testing?" I snorted, "Because I want to ensure she didn't give me some deadly disease." "Are you certain Robert and James didn't sleep with other people?" "If you're sure, let's ask them." Their heads whipped around. They stood, now yelling at me. I ignored them, sitting with arms crossed. Finally, they calmed down. Her lawyer suggested, "There's no need to involve others in this personal matter. We'll conduct STD testing next week and report relevant results." I quickly added, looking Emma in the face, "I want results in writing, regardless of outcome. I don't trust you right now, as you might guess. Divorce will be long and painful." I knew Emma didn't want to involve her lovers in our affairs, especially Robert, who had most to lose. If subpoenaed to tell a family judge how long he'd been sleeping with a subordinate, his career would suffer, and his wife would be more than a little annoyed. It would cost him dearly. James was different. To buy his silence, he could be threatened with dismissal or rewarded with promotions and money. He wasn't married or living with anyone, but my detective learned he enjoyed both women and men in his bed. This would significantly disrupt the law firm's order. Scandal is bad for business. Emma had much to lose. Weeks stretched into months, with court hearings to overturn the restraining order. She managed to cancel it, and solemnly returned home to find neither the children nor I were there. We had gone to Disney World in Florida. My phone rang constantly with calls and texts from Emma, primarily asking, "Where are you?" After considerable time, I replied that the kids and I were busy having fun. Then I turned off my phone for the remainder of our Florida trip. On the flight home, I knew I faced the difficult task of managing the house and everything else. I called my lawyer, who advised avoiding anything that would worsen the situation and minimizing conversation with Emma. She worked intensely to reinstate the restraining order, but acknowledged it might take time. I resigned myself to a hellish few weeks, and so it happened. Emma was delighted to see the children, hugging them long after we arrived home. They had to make an effort to free themselves from her iron embrace before slipping away to their rooms. I busied myself collecting dirty laundry and loading the washing machine. Emma was doing something unusual in the kitchen, trying to prepare food. The smell resembled burnt sneakers. Disgusting. I ordered Chinese food delivery. When it arrived, I called the children to the kitchen and fed them. They happily ate while their mother bombarded them with questions about Disney World. I ate silently. When the kids finished, they escaped the interrogation to watch streaming television. I cleaned the kitchen under Emma's watchful gaze. She sat at the table. "I missed the children and you so much, Jack," she said, almost too quietly to hear. "Were your lovers busy?" "I'm guessing they were happy to keep you company." The next battle in our war began. "I'm not dating anyone, Jack. I want us to be a family and do everything together. I know you don't believe it, but I love you very much." I interrupted her. "Just not enough to keep your legs closed to other men." Emma ignored my comment. "I've made an appointment for us with a marriage counselor. We need to determine what's important and focus on those things." She continued talking endlessly. I left the kitchen. She followed me to the bedroom, still talking. I closed the door in her face, but noticed she had unpacked and planned to sleep in the master bedroom. Shaking my head, I realized I had much work ahead. I gathered a handful of her things, opened the door, and threw them into the hallway. Some fell on her, temporarily interrupting her monologue. I closed the door again. She reopened it, carrying her things back inside, and that's how it began, or continued. The next few weeks were fun, Emma's approach was pretending nothing serious had happened, that my claims were exaggerated, that her affairs were nothing to worry about, that in the modern world this was normal and didn't mean she didn't love me or our children. She returned to family court, formally requesting marriage counseling. Unable to attend that day, my lawyer failed to convince the judge that our marriage was unsalvageable and counseling futile. The judge ordered 10 sessions so we could pour out our feelings. Emma and her lawyer arranged for us to see their chosen counselor. I figured once the counselor knew the full picture, they would conclude our marriage was truly over. How wrong I was. Emma found a counselor who embraced the view that modern marriage was more flexible and fluid than tradition allowed, that in the 21st century, we needed to see monogamy as part of a bigger picture, viewing ourselves as independent yet committed. I laughed when expressing my thoughts about this approach. Emma and the counselor decided I had given up, that Emma could have her cake and eat it too. So when I stood, thanked the counselor for her wisdom, and said, "I think we're done here," they looked puzzled. I thanked them both for bringing clarity to our new marriage arrangement. When the counselor asked what this meant to me, I answered, "It's really simple. I want to thank you both for opening my eyes." Emma spoke first. "Jack, thank you for being so understanding, dear." "You're welcome, Emma. And thank you, Dr. Snow. You both played crucial roles in making my life easier." Emma looked as if she'd won the lottery. "That's wonderful, honey. We'll definitely understand each other better, and I'm really looking forward to resuming our intimacy. I want to make love with the man I love." "Okay, well, I want to make love to the woman I love too." Huge smiles appeared on Emma and Dr. Snow's faces. Their mission seemed accomplished. I agreed to accept what they expected of me. Yes, sure. Unfortunately, Dr. Snow wanted me to return for one-on-one sessions. Though not convinced, I agreed to schedule with her receptionist. Leaving the counselor's office, we drove home. Emma was very affectionate in the car, wanting to hold my hand, her look speaking volumes. At home, I went to the home office to send emails and update my lawyer. After dinner, Emma started getting the kids ready for bed while I changed clothes. When I emerged, she saw I was going out. "Where are you going, Jack?" "Oh, it's my cycling club night. I'll probably be back late, so don't wait up." But I left before she could respond. The club had planned a 30-mile ride and an hour of socializing afterward. I enjoyed both, getting muddy during the ride and savoring a pint of Guinness later. 2 single women club members, knowing I was divorcing, were wonderful conversation partners. I asked one out for the following Saturday. I returned home after midnight. Emma was asleep. I showered, rinsed my dirty cycling clothes, and loaded them into the washing machine before sleeping in the guest bedroom. In the morning, I rose early, ready for work. Emma entered the kitchen as I was about to leave. "What time did you get home last night?" she asked, looking confused. "Around midnight." "What time will you be back tonight?" "About 6. You need to pick up the kids from school today." With that, I left. Thursday and Friday passed with virtually no conversation. I knew her self-imposed abstinence from her lovers was an attempt to create the appearance of normal family life, but this wasn't the case. On Saturday morning, we discussed schedules, lots of driving for the children's activities. Emma had forgotten much, having previously delegated many parental responsibilities to me. She had embraced the role of modern career woman who could do whatever she pleased. I had become chauffeur, cook, janitor, cheerleader, launderer, and all-around parenting expert. My life was highly planned and organized. That was about to change. Saturday night, after cooking dinner for the kids and Emma, I prepared to go out. I returned dressed in khaki pants, a button-up shirt, and sports jacket. Emma's jaw dropped. "Where are you going?" she asked. "I have a date." I kept it simple. "A date? What do you mean?" "You know what a date is. You've been on plenty." I took my car keys and kissed the kids' heads. "Be good for your mom. Don't wait up. I'll probably be back late." I walked toward the garage. "Jack, wait. What are you doing?" Emma called after me. I stopped and turned. "It's simple. I have a date tonight with a woman. You have dates with your boyfriends. Now I have a date. See you later." Emma's jaw nearly hit the floor as I left. I had a wonderful time. I took Laura to the local symphony orchestra, followed by late dinner at an Italian restaurant. Afterward, We walked briefly before I drove her home. Invited inside, I enjoyed a drink and a kiss before leaving. Laura said she had a great time and would love to repeat it. I told her I'd thoroughly enjoyed myself and would call her to arrange another date. My social life was rising after long stagnation, and happily, this applied to my intimate life too. I hadn't touched Emma in months, not wanting to risk disease, though I was sure she wasn't stupid enough to forego protection with James. Dr. Snow, the marriage counselor, gave the impression of an aging hippie. About 60, her clothes seemed just as old, and her graying hair was styled like a primary school teacher's. Her views on marriage clearly differed from mine. She discussed newfangled nonsense that legitimized open marriages, polyamory, and various arrangements while still calling themselves family. I called it twisted. After much discussion, I asked what she had against traditional monogamous marriage. She considered this. I have nothing against traditional marriage, but nowadays, marriage should be about what makes us happy, regardless of form. As long as everyone involved is happy, that's what matters. I looked at the floor briefly, collecting my thoughts. Taking a deep breath, I met her eyes. Doctor, what you've missed is that I'm not happy. I married Emma with the understanding we would only sleep with each other. 2 children depend on a stable home without a parade of people through their mother's bed or mine. The man they see at breakfast or dinner is me, not someone who spent the night with their mother. Call me old-fashioned, but that's me. The state of New York still supports the marriage I signed up for. I don't plan on sharing my bed with Emma and other men. Some form of polymarriage isn't what I want. You need to know this. Tell the judge and Emma. We can save time, effort, and money by proceeding with divorce. I've had enough of this nonsense. My lawyer arranged a trial date and called Dr. Snow as a witness. In testimony, she told the judge I was reluctant to participate, even suggesting I was somewhat uncooperative. Under questioning by my lawyer, she conceded that I had not consented to my wife sleeping with 2 other men and that such arrangements rarely work in marriage. The judge nodded. I had made my point, and we could proceed to determine divorce terms. I assumed after the court hearing it had become a battle over child custody, our house, finances, and other matters requiring resolution before papers were signed and officially sealed. Not so fast. When I returned home that night, Emma was in the kitchen with wine. We need to talk. I couldn't believe my ears. Speak now? You want to speak now? A little late, don't you think? Honey, I need to explain something. Things I should have told you long ago. Like I said, it's a little late now, isn't it? You don't understand what it's like trying to advance in a high-stress law firm. She began, but I motioned for her to continue. It was made clear that to advance my career, I would have to play by the rules, not only be an excellent lawyer, but also do my part with senior lawyers who would help my career. And what exactly does that mean? I wanted her to say the words I knew she resisted. Robert made it clear that unless I agreed to be more than just a junior associate, my potential at the firm would be limited. He hinted that if I became his close associate, he would mentor me. I finally realized he wanted to sleep with me. She took a long sip of wine. I know I'm attractive, and he finds me very attractive. Robert is handsome, so I thought at least it wouldn't be so bad. If he had been fat and disgusting, it might have been different. I decided I could do it for the advantage of promotion and eventual partnership. Another large sip. I figured I could easily hide this from you. You're very gullible. Obviously, I'm too gullible, I said sadly. How long have you been sleeping with Robert? Emma stared at the floor and quietly replied, leaving me shocked and broken. I started sleeping with Robert about a year after Beth was born. Beth is our eldest daughter. Janie is our youngest. I calculated. Emma had been with Robert for about 8 years. Damn, I had to sit to avoid falling. If Emma had shot me in the head, it might have hurt less than knowing I had shared my wife with another man all this time. Then it dawned on me. Was Janie even mine? I returned home, bursting through the front door. Emma, where are you? I heard her leave the bedroom and nearly ran to the door. Is Janie mine? I almost shouted. What? Janie? Am I her father? Don't make me laugh. Of course you're her father. You think I slept with Robert when I got pregnant with Janie? Damn. Dead silence followed. For an intelligent woman, she could be incredibly stupid sometimes. I turned and left the room, going to the kitchen for water. I heard Emma coming downstairs. She entered the kitchen and looked at me, but said nothing. The next day, I researched DNA testing online. New York State has specific requirements: collection by a physician maintaining chain of custody, samples accompanied by doctors' or lawyers' orders, and testing at a lab certified by the New York State Department of Health. I contacted a lab and arranged test kits. When Emma left for work, I took the kids to the doctor's office. They were curious but complied as the doctor swabbed their cheeks and took small hair samples. Everything was packed for courier delivery the next day. Then came the agonizing wait for results. Almost 2 weeks during which I contemplated my response to various outcomes. If tests showed I was the girl's father, I would simply move forward. If results showed I wasn't Janie's biological father, what should I do? After much consideration, I concluded that regardless of results, I would continue as before. Nothing would change regarding my children. I even considered not looking at the results, ultimately deciding to place them in my office safe, only retrieving them if absolutely necessary. Damn, why did Emma need to have affairs? No job or career was worth destroying your family, at least not to me. The next time I spoke with Emma, I asked if she was making plans for life after our divorce was finalized. The battle and heel-dragging continued. Honey, I don't want a divorce, she pleaded. You, me, and the girls are family. We need to be together. I love you, Jack. What I did with Robert took nothing away from you. Even with James, he only got crumbs from your table. I couldn't believe her nonsense. My table? My damn table? What about our bed? Did you ever think about me or your daughters while sleeping with these men? Yes, lawyers have the ability to compartmentalize. I suppose that's what my wife did. For her, they were different planets. Her legal career and family would never intersect, kept separate without one influencing the other. That was her plan, and for a long time it worked, until it didn't. Emma examined her manicure and the floor. I felt disgusted and left, then returned. You need to get out of this house immediately. I walked out. Emma's lawyer managed to stall for quite some time, but eventually time was running out. My lawyer appealed to Emma's sense of fair play, seeking an uncontested divorce. Emma refused. Depending on family court support, finalizing our divorce could take a year or 2. I needed to accelerate things. I had only one ace up my sleeve, but using it meant doing something I'd avoided: examining the DNA test results. I removed the envelope from my office safe and placed it on the desk. Pouring coffee, I stared at it so long that my cup emptied and the remaining coffee turned cold. Mentally, I weighed the impact of what I might read. If my worst fears proved true, what would it do to me and my children? Deep down, I knew whatever secret lay within wouldn't change how I viewed my daughters. Taking a letter opener, I carefully cut the envelope's top. For sheets of paper waited inside. I unfolded them, smoothed the creases, and placed them at the center of my desk. As I read, my world crumbled further. In that moment, I hated Emma more than I had ever loved her. She had given away what I thought was ours. Beth was my biological daughter. Janie was not. I photocopied all 4 pages, making 3 sets. I returned the originals to the envelope and safe. I knew my next step. I called Robert's office and spoke with his secretary to schedule an appointment. Not knowing who I was, she booked me for the following week. I placed 1 copy of the DNA results in an envelope and couriered it to my lawyer to add to our court file. For the next week, I avoided Emma completely. I maintained my routine with the kids, but whenever Emma tried joining us, I made excuses to leave her handling the girls alone. On the day of my meeting with Robert, I visited his office, hoping to avoid accidentally encountering my wife. Waiting in reception, I readied myself. Finally, his secretary announced he would see me. When I entered and he recognized me, Robert paled slightly, attempting to mask it with a greeting and extended hand. I declined the handshake but ensured the door closed behind me. Well, Jack, what brings you here? Let me call Emma to join us, he offered nervously. I raised my hand to stop him. I came to speak with you, Robert. This isn't a social visit. I think we'll leave my wife out of this today. Well, Jack, what did you want to discuss? He asked, clearly uncomfortable. I removed an envelope from my jacket and placed it on his desk. He eyed it as if it might explode. What's this? Something I wanted to share? You see, I have a problem. That problem is the wife you've been sleeping with for 8 years. That problem is a daughter who isn't biologically mine. That problem is the divorce this is causing. The issue is the conversation I'll have with your wife unless you convince Emma to agree to our divorce. The issue is the public disclosure that you've maintained a relationship with a subordinate for years. The problem is what your corporate clients will think about the ethics, or lack thereof, of this firm. That's my problem, and now it's yours. Robert flushed, looking as if he wanted to leap over his mahogany desk and strangle me. I turned toward the door. You have 24 hours to get her to sign the divorce agreement, or my next visit will be to your home for a chat with your wife. Deal with it yourself. I departed quickly, in case he kept a weapon in his desk. That night when Emma returned home, she stormed in furiously. Why the hell did you go to Robert's office? I waited before answering. Why do you think? Did he show you what I left for him? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who Janie's biological father is. You are her father, always have been and always will be. What does it matter who impregnated me? How can you be so self-deceived? Really? Don't you think it matters that you've been deceiving me our entire life together? For your job. I had accumulated significant anger, but remembered my lawyer's advice. Don't do anything stupid you'll regret. I counted silently to 10. Jack, you know I love you, and these DNA results don't matter. Emma, you're right that DNA doesn't matter regarding Janie. She is my daughter and always will be. I'll fight for her just as hard as for Beth. You can be certain of that. I went to the kitchen for my favorite IPA, hoping to relax. Emma followed closely. Why did you threaten Robert about the DNA results? Nothing will come of it. Robert is working to get a restraining order preventing you from approaching his home or family and disclosing the DNA. Is that true, honey? We need to forget this divorce nonsense and return to married life. I'm cooking dinner. Why don't you help me? With that, she turned toward the kitchen. Pots and pans banged as if cooking would solve her problems and make me forget her years of infidelity. I messaged my lawyer immediately, warning that Robert was preemptively trying to prevent me from contacting his wife and exposing his behavior. What they forgot was that I knew how to use a phone, and finding Mrs. Roberts' number wasn't difficult. She worked with several charity committees, making it relatively easy to reach her, which I did. The wealthy live by different rules from everyone else. I always knew this, but my conversation with Mrs. Robert confirmed it. Money buys privileges, substantial money purchases rights. When I introduced myself, she immediately admitted knowing who I was and guessing my reason for calling. I was so shocked that I struggled to focus on my agenda. She seemed aware of all her husband's affairs, including his long-term relationship with Emma. When I produced the DNA test showing I wasn't Janie's biological father, she quickly scanned the documents and returned them, asking simply, "What do you want, Jack?" It was straightforward. Looking directly at her, I replied, "Do you have influence to convince your husband to persuade Emma to agree to our divorce? Why divorce her? Is she such a terrible wife that you want to be rid of her?" I'm surprised you'd ask that. Isn't a long-term affair and hidden pregnancy with another man sufficient reason? Divorce is overused. She added, "How long have you known about her relationship with Robert?" "A few months now." Was she otherwise a good wife and mother? I began to see where this conversation was heading and disliked it. In my opinion, she was a terrible wife. Her deception was intentional, which says volumes. How can I trust her to prioritize her children and marriage when she slept with other men, conceived a child by your husband, and assumed what I didn't know wouldn't bother me? Well, I know, and it bothers me tremendously. Then she revealed her secret. I've known about Robert's womanizing for a very long time. His relationship with Emma wasn't the first and won't be the last. When his affairs were revealed to me, I decided I liked my life and wouldn't change it. When I discovered Robert's infidelity, I pursued my own extramarital activities, and I enjoy them. I don't plan to stop anytime soon. Oh God, you're cut from the same cloth as my wife. Look, I don't care what you do, but when your husband interferes in my life, it hurts. Please tell him it's in his best interest, and now yours, to convince Emma to stop opposing the divorce, sign the papers, and they can continue their relationship whenever and wherever they want. Just do it. What do you mean, in my best interests? In case you haven't noticed, you enjoy a high social position in your community. Think about it. I turned and left, feeling sullied by the meeting. A few days later, while home with the children playing in the hallway, Emma drove up looking ready to explode. After dinner, once the girls finished homework, she insisted on talking. Apparently, Robert and his wife had candidly discussed the implications of revealing his affair with Emma, not only for their social circle, but for the firm and its conservative corporate clients. A classic scandal is terrible for business. Robert realized maintaining his comfortable lifestyle required keeping his workplace indiscretions private. Consequently, he and Emma had a cordial conversation where he encouraged her to find a quiet solution to our divorce dispute. Failing to do so would hinder her progress toward partnership. The message was simple: get divorced if you want to keep your job. I told her I'd speak after putting the girls to bed. Meanwhile, I retrieved the divorce petition from my briefcase, confirming it contained all essential points. I tossed it before Emma and left her alone. Upon returning downstairs, I found Emma in the family room with her favorite wine. The document lay on the table with a pen atop it. I'm going to miss this home. 6 months later, the house sold and financial arrangements finalized. The girls and I moved to a slightly smaller house with a detached garage featuring a loft and small in-ground pool. Though less impressive than our previous home, it had everything we needed. The girls remained at the same school, and even the dog approved. Emma's priorities were her career and the power and prestige of working at the region's premier firm. She thought she wanted a family, but ultimately, we weren't part of her success equation. I received full custody, though Emma could see the children anytime. This typically meant random weekends. She intended to be present, but soon became absent. She sent a gift for Beth's birthday, but skipped the party. You might expect I found a lingerie model half my age. No. My social life gradually recovered until I began seriously dating Laura, whom I mentioned earlier. We enjoyed each other's company tremendously. This divorce could have been avoided had I turned a blind eye to Emma's affairs. I could have continued occasional intimacy with her and probably found relative happiness if I were that kind of person. But I'm not. I'm far from perfect, but I maintain standards, especially regarding children. Their needs come first. I have a responsibility to protect them, providing a stable home. It's straightforward, at least for me. When the dust settled, I appreciated my new life and moved forward. Laura is a lovely woman around 30, beautiful, athletic, with a wonderful sense of humor. My kids like her, she likes them, and even the dog approves. What more could a man want?